This story is part of an ongoing series called Chronicles of a Limerent Object. He hadn't meant to idealize her, to put her on a pedestal, to overwhelm. Radiant she was. She drew people in, shook their hands, pulled up chairs for them. "Are you the organizer?" she'd been asked. No, she wasn't. Just a woman with a smile, a woman in a sundress who scooted over and made room for others. What was her name again? And then she directed her smile at him, her warmth, her questions. Matthieu stirred in his seat, gripped tight the neck of his bottle so as not to tremble. He did that sometimes. Or rather, the nerves did, as though they were an entity of their own. "What does your tattoo mean?" she asked, leaning in, both hands on the edge of her seat as though to anchor her curiosity. Juvenile energy, something young and endearing about her gap-toothed smile. "I drew it," said Matthieu. A ghost, an illustration he'd de-scribbled in his notebook the day his dad ignored his new shoes, leather. He'd traded in his scruffy Vans and their worn tongues because real men, not boys, wore real shoes. "Really?" said the woman, wide-eyed. "What does it mean?" Cliché question, but it was she who'd asked it. "I think I felt invisible," he said. "What does that feel like?" Right. How would she know? And how would he know that she was more than a bubbly personality, a pretty face, a question mark? 2. Do you listen to everything others say, or do you stare through them? Do you see what isn't there? Cafe, worn leather seats, pamphlets scattered across the windowsill. Matthieu stuttered, hands jittery as he spoke, responded. Had she noticed? Her eyes fell upon his trembling fingers, his body quivering like the crown of a tree, voice rustling as light as leaves. "So what brings you to Lille?" he asked. Silence. Fill the silence. He felt too visible beneath her gaze, fiddling with a sugar sachet. He watched as her lips moved in response, how a smile flittered here, there, disappeared, how her eyes crinkled. Brown, green, hazel, freckles sprinkled across her sunburnt cheeks, dead skin on her nose peeling like dry glue, nasal hair untrimmed, upper lip in need of a wax, though plump and pink and soft, he bet. She was far from perfect. She was an ordinary individual with ordinary flaws and ordinary ideas, mediocre even. He wouldn't idealize her, not this time, not again. She'd do, just like this, just as she was. And hadn't he grown? Aware of his own patterns? He was. "What about you?" she asked. "What about me? Pourquoi es-tu venu à Lille?" Sweet accent, hers. Her voice changed in French, regressed, rather. The voice of a girl, always curious, always inquiring. Douce. And he might just burst with nervous laughter, might just grab her hand, kiss her feet. Happy he was, merely to be in her orbit. Happy he was to sit across from her in an orange summer dress, doe-eyed, as pretty as a present with ribbon tied. But he was no longer one to idealize, remember? And happy. It was the right word. Ordinary, just like him and just like her. At least that's what he told himself. 3. "But you don't know me," said Nora, head propped up on a pillow. "I know," said Matthieu. "I've been reminding myself that you're just another individual too, and that you're flawed, that I'd have to accept that version of you." "It sounds like you've been thinking a lot about me." "I have. Idealizing me, really. I'm trying not to, hence why I've been thinking about your flaws. But that's also obsessive. I don't want to be anybody's limerent object. It's reductive, dehumanizing even. You know, nobody ever sees me. They project their fantasies, their desire onto me. And that guy from the language exchange, for example, Laurent, he's already grabbed my waist multiple times, even though I flinched and pulled away. I can't just be. Ever, it seems. Well, now you're making me feel guilty for being attracted to you. We can go back to being friends if it makes you feel better, but I'm not sure I'd be able to." Maybe, said Nora, dragging herself out of bed. Coffee? 4. Hi, Matthieu. I think we got carried away last night, and I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. Is it okay if we go back to being platonic? If so, are we still on for the fireworks? I would bring my friend along. Send. Pages and pages of text. Nora scrolled indefinitely. Disproportionate it was. You can't tell me how to feel. My feelings are mine, and I care about you now. You initiated intimacy. Don't tell me not to get attached. I can't help but think you wanted this too, or else you wouldn't have initiated kissing me. Last night you took me home, slept in my bed, and now you're acting like nothing happened. I don't want to be with you. I don't know you. You don't know me. And I'm really upset that you seem to think you can just use people and throw them away without any consideration. I'm very disappointed. Read. He knew he deserved it, but his gut twisted nonetheless. He typed, I don't resent you, but he swiped away. Hi. I haven't responded to your messages because I needed some time to process how offended I am by your words. You crossed several boundaries, invaded my privacy, and never once stopped to consider how I might feel about any of it. You showed up at my house uninvited, drank my alcohol, slept in my bed, and now you're messaging me incessantly when I've clearly indicated that I need space. Why don't you respect that? Why are you disregarding my feelings and treating me like this? You're not entitled to anything from me, whether it's physical, emotional, or otherwise, and it's not fair of you to expect me to reciprocate your feelings. I want to make that clear. I'm not interested in pursuing anything romantic with you. You're free to find someone else. You're free to find someone else. You're free to find someone else. But I suggest you stop contacting me unless it's absolutely necessary. I'm not sure why I even bothered to explain myself, but I felt compelled to at least give you a piece of my mind. Now please leave me alone. 5. We don't own the rights to how we're perceived or imagined by others. But that doesn't mean it isn't violating. What had he done with the thought of her? And why could she feel it? Why was it palpable? Why could she smell it in the air like spoiled milk? Why could she taste it in every forkful of instant noodles? She pushed her bowl aside, fork clattering against the porcelain. She'd lost her appetite. Dry gagged. Everything tasted, sounded, smelled of him. Of him taking liberties with the idea of her. A man who'd lived God knows what with the fantasy of her. A man who resented her autonomy, her boundaries, her refusal to assume the role he'd cast her in. But what if he was outside somewhere? What if he saw her light come on? Nausea and goosebumps evoked by a near stranger who Dee conjured up a narrative centered around her and him, a narrative which he seemed to believe despite its non-reciprocity. Limerence, it wasn't flattering but degrading, reductive, dehumanizing. He'd poured into her all his expectations, as though she were a container, a heart-shaped cake pan. 6. Matthieu pulled at the doorknob, but it caught in its frame. Locked. If he could just speak to her in person. Cold, it was, wind climbing up his spine and caressing his neck. He sat on the curb, shoulders hunched, watched a group of drunken girls trip over themselves, squeal, their heels clinking like coins.